Narcissists panic when they realize you're no longer under their control. I've observed that many individuals experience significant emotional and relational struggles because there is someone in their life determined to exert control over them. It became clear to me that it takes an extraordinary level of arrogance, and frankly, a complete lack of basic decency, for one person to believe they have the right to dictate how another person should live, think, and behave. That's simply not how a healthy and balanced life is meant to function. Now, of course, offering feedback, setting boundaries, and engaging in open discussions about what works and what doesn't are all essential aspects of healthy relationships. But I'm referring to individuals who insist, "I've created a mold, and you must fit into it exactly as I say." Early in my work, I coined a term for this kind of rigid and domineering mindset: imperative thinking or imperative communication. This describes the way controlling individuals interact, constantly issuing directives. Think about how often you hear phrases like, "You have to," "You must," "You should," "You're supposed to," "You better," "You can't," "You've got to." These are their go-to expressions, repeated endlessly. You may even find yourself mirroring this language, either by throwing it back at them or internalizing it within your own thoughts. Ultimately, this pattern reinforces the idea that one person has the right to control another. And when you consider the emotional toll it takes, manifesting its anxiety, depression, anger, guilt, and more, it becomes clear that this is an unhealthy and unsustainable way to live. Now imagine what it would be like to make the conscious decision: I'm done with this. These narcissistic individuals who believe they are so entitled and self-important that they can dictate my life, well, they can think whatever they want, but I refuse to be controlled anymore. That chapter is over. What would it feel like to embrace that mindset, whether you declare it aloud or simply demonstrate it through your actions? I can assure you, once a narcissist realizes they no longer have a grip on you, they won't respond with praise or encouragement. Don't expect them to say, "Wow, Chad, I admire your independence. Good for you." Instead, they'll accuse you of being ungrateful, rebellious, irrational, or unwilling to be a team player. They might brand you as an outlier, a troublemaker, or someone who refuses to conform. But in reality, all you're doing is choosing freedom. You're asserting your right to live peacefully, guided by your own wisdom and common sense. And honestly, is there anything wrong with that? If you do take a stand and assert your independence, it's important to be aware that the controlling individual may not simply accept it and move on. In fact, they might retaliate with even greater intensity, attempting to pull you back into their grip. You may find yourself exhausted, repeatedly explaining or justifying your decision in hopes that they'll eventually respect it. In some cases, you might even resort to hiding your desire for freedom, sneaking moments of authenticity, only when you think they're not paying attention, whispering to yourself, "I'll just be who I really am when they're not watching." But what if we decided to abandon that exhausting game entirely? What if, instead of tiptoeing around our autonomy, we fully embraced it, refusing to be controlled in any capacity? That shift requires two key things. First, I hope you take the time to define, in clear and intentional terms, what a fulfilling and meaningful life looks like to you. What values, principles, and standards do you want to live by? How do you want to manage your emotions in a healthy way? Second, I encourage you to apply that understanding to real-life situations, ensuring that your choices consistently align with your personal definition of a well-lived life. When you reach that point of clarity and then declare, "I will no longer be controlled," you are standing on a strong foundation. Now, some people resist control in a combative way, engaging in a cycle of counter-control. But that's not what we're talking about here. This isn't about overpowering the narcissist or fighting them on their own terms. It's about recognizing, I've determined what a healthy life looks like, and control has no place in it. I'm not participating in this toxic dynamic any longer. Of course, don't expect the narcissist to suddenly respect your stance and say, "You know what? Let's find a way to coexist peacefully." That's not how they operate. Instead, be prepared for their reaction, which will likely manifest in several destructive ways. First, they may try to intimidate you through bullying tactics, sending the message, "You will regret the day you ever defied me." They may relentlessly argue, bombarding you with manipulative questions like, "Why are you doing this? How did you come up with that? Didn't you once say the opposite?" Their goal is to exhaust you into submission. Then there's the possibility of public shaming. They might complain about you to those in your social or professional circles, attempting to damage your reputation. In some cases, they'll betray your trust by exposing private information you once confided in them, using it as ammunition to humiliate you. Worse still, they may distort past events, twisting your mistakes into something far worse, or fabricating outright lies to undermine your credibility. When you decide to break free, expect resistance. But also remember this: their reaction only confirms the necessity of your choice. Freedom is never granted by a narcissist. It is claimed by those who refuse to be controlled. Narcissists often refuse to hold back when it comes to maintaining control, resorting to a variety of manipulative tactics. They may accuse you of being irrational, claiming you're dishonest or unreliable. Ironically, there might be a grain of truth in that. Not because you were truly dishonest, but because you spent so long pretending to accept their control when, deep down, you never did. They might lash out in full-blown narcissistic rage, screaming and throwing accusations, or take the opposite approach, retreating into cold, calculated passive aggression, refusing to cooperate, and making every interaction feel like walking through a minefield. Denial is another common tool in their arsenal. No matter how obvious their wrongdoing, they'll refuse to acknowledge it, rewriting reality to suit their narrative. And let's call denial what it really is: lying. They'll distort the past, weaponizing former compliments to inflict harm. One woman once shared that, after leaving her husband, he admitted that all the kind words he once showered on her were never sincere. "I only told you that you were beautiful to make you feel better. The truth is, you're just insecure, and no one actually likes you." In the face of rejection, they will grasp at any insult that might shake your confidence. They'll sulk, withdraw, or disappear entirely, only to re-emerge later with grandiose tales about their superiority. But here's the thing: the more they resort to these tactics, the more they prove exactly why you were right to walk away. Their actions only validate your decision to break free. When faced with their attempts at control, I encourage you to ground yourself in a few core beliefs. First, remind yourself that your desire for autonomy is entirely reasonable. Wanting to live life on your own terms is not selfish. It's normal. Second, recognize the absurdity of sacrificing your identity to appease someone so wrapped up in themselves. Why should you suppress your individuality just to maintain the illusion of their dominance? Third, acknowledge that a person who loses all composure the moment you step outside their expectations is not someone worth surrendering yourself to. At the heart of it all, you deserve respect. You deserve to be valued. You deserve dignity, and you owe no one an apology for expecting these things. And another realization: you don't need to keep defending yourself for simply existing as you are. It is exhausting to justify things that require no justification. If you are a person of integrity, if you manage your responsibilities well, if you make choices that align with your values, then that's enough. If the narcissist resents your independence, let that be their problem. If your individuality makes them angry, consider that a sign that your relationship was never a healthy one to begin with. Why invest in a connection built on chronic resentment? Their retaliation may be unpleasant, but let it serve as further motivation to claim your freedom. You don't need to mold yourself to fit inside their fragile ego. The time for filtering your choices through someone else's oppressive standards is over. Change is not something to fear, it's something to embrace, and now is the time to step into it. I hope you can stand firm and declare, "I will no longer be controlled by this narcissist." When you do, their true nature will inevitably reveal itself. It's practically a certainty. But when that happens, remember that their unraveling isn't a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them, of their deep-seated insecurity, distorted mindset, and internal instability. Recognizing this is key because it reinforces the truth. You don't need to let a person like that dictate your life. So let's focus on one crucial idea. It's not just beneficial, but absolutely essential for you to be your authentic self. When you decide, I refuse to be controlled, commit to that decision, move forward, and don't look back. My hope is that this video provides meaningful insights that encourage deep reflection. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button below. Additionally, we have an email list where you can receive updates, promotions, and exclusive discounts on our resources. If you feel that counseling would be helpful as you navigate these challenges, I strongly encourage you to seek support from a professional in your area. If finding someone locally isn't an option, we've partnered with a vetted online counseling service that has received excellent feedback. You can find the link below if you'd like to explore that option. Also, I invite you to check out my free to be online course. It's an in-depth program filled with multiple modules, videos, and thought-provoking questions designed to help you gain clarity and strength. You can also visit our websites --survivingnarcissism.tv and lescarter.com for a wealth of additional resources. At the end of the day, hold on to this truth. You don't need to surrender yourself to someone else's control. You aren't living your best life when you do. And as you fully embrace that mindset, I hope you discover a sense of consistency, stability, and most importantly, peace.